Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. And today you're here hopefully to see our 5th craft in our Big Thunder Mountain inspired tree. Today I have something dynamite for you that combines our Big Thunder theme and a traditional Christmas craft. Let's go have some fun.
Keeping with our dynamite theme, I thought it would be fun to put dynamite on the tree. And you might be thinking, well, dynamite is not very festive, but Christmas crackers are festive. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a Christmas cracker that looks like dynamite. Now I'm also going to do another variation which is not a Christmas cracker. And of course you could just make ones that are simply decorative, that aren't anything at all, just looks like a piece of dynamite. But it makes sense to me to make something that's a Christmas cracker that looks like dynamite. It goes with our theme. Now, if you're not familiar with Christmas crackers, they're tubes. They're somewhere between 6 and 10 inches long, depending on the size of the cracker. I suppose they could be even smaller or larger. And they're wrapped and they're gathered at either end, and they're filled with prizes. So what you do is, usually like around a table, you cross your arms and take hold of the end of Christmas crackers on either side. So you and your neighbors on either side are holding the ends of Christmas cracker, and then you pull. And when you pull, they sort of explode because they have something inside them called a cracker snap or a bang strip, which makes a loud noise. And then out of the cracker will come traditionally a paper hat, a joke on a piece of paper, and some kind of little treat, some kind of little prize, toy, something. So we can make one, but if it's going to look like dynamite, it's not going to be gathered at both ends. So what I have here is a wrapping paper tube, and those are usually pretty abundant this time of year. And I have a piece of cardboard. I'm cutting a 6-inch long piece off the wrapping paper tube. We're then going to cut circles out of the cardboard to fit just inside each end of the tube. And you want to make that as tight a fit as possible. Now I have this sheet of adhesive cork from the Dollar Tree, which I'm going to use to cover those circles that are going to go on either end of our stick of dynamite. You can use whatever you want. You might think it looks more authentic if it's white or black or red. I thought the cork would look pretty good. I think originally a piece of wood was used in the end of a stick of dynamite. I don't know what's used now. So I think the cork is going to look good. So I'm just going to cut a circle out of the cork and then adhere it to my piece of cardboard that's going to be inserted in the end. So it's going to be the same size as the piece of cardboard, and I'm going to cut 2 circles. Now for the Christmas cracker version of the dynamite, I really wanted something that would spray out of the end that would look like the dynamite was lit. And I went to the Dollar Tree because I thought this is a place we could all go to and find something. And this was the best thing that I could find. And unfortunately, I really wanted silver or gold, but they didn't have just silver or just gold. So I got this blue. And this is one of those things that I don't know if it's a little piece of cement, but it's meant to hold balloons, helium balloons. So the sprays that are in this are really stiff. They stand up really well. So that's why I selected this. And I figure that I can use about half of that, and then I'm going to cut it. So I could probably get 4 crackers out of this blue stuff. Oh, and I didn't want to cut it with my scissors because it's metallic. I don't know what it is. So I did use a knife to cut it. I then cut a hole in the top of my cork and cardboard circle, inserted the blue stuff in there, and then glued it down on the wrong side, the side that will be inside, with my hot glue. Now here's the wrapper that I'm going to put around the cardboard tube. And so I'm just showing you the image here so that you can take a screen grab and use it if you want to. It's pretty simple. It just says Big Thunder Explosive Powder in a serif font that I thought looked old-timey. And again, I've sort of gone over it with a brush in Photoshop to make it look like it's worn off. And I did take the explosive powder and I just tilted it just a little bit so that it looked like it was printed on separately from Big Thunder. So to me that just made it look a little more old-fashioned. Now my tube is 6 inches long, and then the diameter of it is about 2 inches. So if we multiply that by pi, we're going to get something over 6 inches. for the length of this. So what I did was I cut it 7 inches long and then 6.5 inches wide so that I would have a little overlap on either end, and I'm going to tuck that in when I glue it to the tube. Before I do that though, I'm going to paint it, and I'm going to use my Craftsmart Tuscan Red acrylic mixed with a little bit of my favorite brown paint, the Deco Art Americana Burnt Umber. And that's actually easier, the whole thing, to paint onto the paper if you add a little bit of water as well. So I started by just painting with the paint as it was, and then I added a little bit of water. And of course we want this to look like an old messy stick of dynamite, so it really doesn't matter if the paint's thicker in some places and then watered down in others. We just want it to look like an old stick of dynamite, so messier is better. And I did try to paint it a little bit lightly over the words so that we would be able to see the words. Once that dried, I dry brushed some of the brown over it just to make it look a little bit dirty. I think I did something similar for the goat's little sticks of dynamite too. Now I just used Mod Podge to adhere that to the tube, and then again, as I mentioned, I put a little bit of Mod Podge at the top and bottom on the inside of the tube and just folded the edges of that paper down inside. So you want to get it centered in the paper so that you've got a little bit on either edge that you can fold in. Now the cracker snaps are quite long, much longer than my tube, and you can see in the middle where the two pieces, the pieces each have a little bit of explosive powder on them, and they're up against each other, and then there's something wrapped around them. That's the part that's going to make the bang, so that's the important part of the cracker. So what I'm going to do is adhere the right side to the top of the dynamite, and then we'll stick the top in, and then we'll take the bottom of it and adhere that closer to the bottom of the dynamite, but inside the tube. So I'm going to be trimming this. I'm going to trim it at the top, and then I'm going to trim it down at the bottom so it fits inside the tube and so that it's stuck firmly inside and to the top. So if we pull the top off, we'll get our snap, and we're going to fill it from the bottom. You might be able to tell from the way that I adhere it that I've had problems with cracker snaps in the past. I've had problems with them not exploding, and I've had problems with them just coming out, like not being held tightly enough at one end or the other. So I use both hot glue and duct tape to hold this down. Once the cracker snap is adhered well on the inside, then we can fill this up, and then we can put the bottom on. So I just wanted to show you examples of the sort of thing that you can put inside. I like to customize Christmas crackers when I make them for people, so I usually put in some things that I know that the person I'm giving it to will like. But here is a standard paper hat, and I also have some candy. So you want small individually wrapped pieces of candy because when you pull it they might go flying out, so you definitely want them wrapped. I often use lint truffles. And then here's a little pin from Disney World. It's a Big Thunder Mountain Railroad pin. Disney pins are actually really nice for Christmas crackers. Obviously, if the people you're giving the cracker to like Disney pins. I'm going to put a link in the description box to a place where you can buy cracker snaps and little hats and the little prizes that you typically put inside a cracker. It was a long time before I could find a place in the United States where I could buy cracker snaps, so I was really excited to find this company. Now you could make this to be a one-time cracker. Traditional Christmas crackers are destroyed once you use them. Or you could try to make this reusable. This can be reusable because we're just going to pull the top out of the cracker and it's going to snap. And then we would be able to remove those pieces of the cracker snap and put a new one in if we could get the bottom off. So you could glue the bottom on with hot glue, or you could tape it. What I'm going to do here is cut some holes and use a little bit of this black florist wire that you can get at the Dollar Tree. So I'll cut holes in my circle for the bottom, and I'll just cut little slits in the side of the tube, and then I'll just tie it up and then tuck that wire inside because we don't want wire sticking out. But that way we'll be able to open it up and get at the workings inside once we've used the cracker. And here's what this looks like on the tree. It is a little large for our tiny tree, and if I were making simply decorative ones, I'd make them much smaller. But because this is a Christmas cracker and it has to have space for prizes inside, I made this larger one. And when you pull it, you can see what happens to the snap. It breaks at that point where the explosive powder is, and that's when it makes the bang. I do want to note that that could be frightening to children and dogs, other little pets. And I want to show you an alternative which does not have a cracker snap inside, but also isn't plain. You could, of course, make a plain one. You don't have to put anything inside at all. But this one's got a little bit of electronic components in it, and I will put some links in the description to some of these components. So what I'm going to use is an LED light, and you will need a 3-volt battery to power an LED light. And I actually saw some 3-volt batteries in the checkout at the Dollar Tree today, so it's pretty easy to get these, but you want to make sure it's 3 volts because a 1.5 volt isn't enough. So you can see the 3 volts there, a little bit larger. And I also bought these little battery holder, coin button battery holders. I'm not sure exactly what they're called. I'm giving you the words on the description, and I will include a link to that. And I liked these because it has an on-off switch. So what we're going to do is connect the LED light to the leads on the battery holder and put the battery in it. And then we would be able to turn that on and off. And that will look like a little light at the end of our dynamite. Now, if it were flickering, yes, that would be much better. This is just going to be a nice little glow. Now, you can just tape the LED to the battery. That will also work just fine. But the problem with that is that it would always be on, and eventually you would use up your battery. Whereas if you have an on-off switch, you can turn it off when you're not using it. So that's the advantage here. So let's look at the battery case. So you put it negative terminal down. And if you look inside the battery case and you sort of follow that little negative terminal with your eyes, you'll be able to tell which of the 2 wires is the negative one and which one is the positive one. And that matters because the longer leg of the LED needs to be attached to the positive wire. So you just want to make sure you're attaching it the right way, obviously, so that it lights up. If you put it the wrong way, you might burn out the LED. So that's why you want to follow it with your eyes and make sure you're going to touch it to the correct wire. Now, if you have a soldering iron, obviously that's the best way to attach the LED to these wire leads. I wanted to show you that you can do this without a soldering iron, so that's how I'm going to do it here. Here's how you can do it without using a soldering iron. So I'm going to cut off 2 small pieces of electrical tape and put them down. And then I'm going to wrap the positive wire around the longer leg of my LED, and I'm going to wrap the negative wire around the shorter leg of my LED, and I'm going to lay each of those down on one of the pieces of tape. I'm going to do this while it's switched on because I need to know that the connection is good while I'm doing this. So as long as my LED is lit up, I'm doing fine. And this did take me a couple of tries. It's definitely better to solder it if you can solder it. But once I have the wires wrapped around and it's sticking to the electrical tape, if everything's still lit up and it's still working, then I put a little hot glue over each of those connections, so where the wire is wrapped around the leg of the LED. Once the hot glue has cooled, then wrap the tape around that hot glue in the connection. Again, as long as we're still all lit up, we're good. And then take the tape and wrap each leg of the LED completely because those legs can't touch each other or you might short out the LED. Once we've gotten to that point, I cut a hole in the middle of the top of my stick of dynamite, and I created a new top for this one, but it's the same stick of dynamite from before. And then I just insert the LED from the bottom through that hole so the LED is sticking up. And then I cut a slit next to that, and this time I actually had some silver wiry stuff. It's like a ribbon, but it's for a present, but it's very, very stiff. And I cut that to make a sort of a spray, and I put that next to the LED. And then I just insert the battery pack into the stick and then push the top in. And when you want to turn it off, you can use the spray of silvery stuff to pull it out, or you can sort of poke it at the top so that it pushes in, and then you're able to pull the whole top off. and then you can turn it off. So it's quite easy to turn off and on by just removing that circle at the top. And here's how it looks on the tree. I really like this one.
So what did you think of our dynamite Christmas crackers? These are just some plain ones. I just took some cardboard and rolled it up and then covered it as I did with the others. But I love the Christmas crackers one because I really enjoy Christmas crackers, so I think it's really fun to be able to incorporate that into our big thunder tree. I also like the LED one because I can light it up and it's like a little candle. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. That tells me that you enjoy this sort of content and I should bring you more. And if you like this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.